Bindu Melanin. So before I start, I just want to apologize because I know that with my channel, it's not as, I guess, set schedule as other channels are. It's because I don't plan things out ahead. I actually move by the spirit that kind of moves me. And being a clairsentient type of soul, I go with kind of the flow and what kind of energies I sense at a time, what I feel that really needs to be spoken about. And when I tap into the collective consciousness of the world, it's kind of the idea of generally what I think that humans have to hear about at this time. So my channel is not going to ever be a set schedule, and I try to keep it that way, but unfortunately, my energy inside moves me towards something else. So right now, I have been called to talk about the different types of elven races that there are. If you follow my blog, I wrote out all the different types of elves that I can think of and that I have heard of or I have felt a connection to. And I want to go a little bit deeper into this. So this is going to have two parts because it does take a lot of energy kind of tapping into the different species. And I have to wear many different hats in order to tap into their different energies and species because all the different species, they hold different vibrations and energies and personalities and goals and the way that they live. So it does take a lot out of me. So I am going to just do part one today. Okay, first type I want to talk about is the Noldor elf. So these elves are elven souls who are from Tolkien's world and are the beings that he channeled that have a gentler nature than most elves that you would hear about in some of the legends and the tales and the folk tales. Tolkien thought of the Noldor elf as a more gentler type of elf than what we may have heard about in the past. They are not physically active except when in need for a direct battle. They choose to remain in a peaceful state as much as they can. These elves are very wise and likened to wizards. They love the pursuit of knowledge and believe in the idea of education of the mind is key to all peace in existence. They have foresight, hindsight, strong insight into the ways of the world. They are usually darker haired, but some can be light haired like Galadriel had. And they are reflective and introverted and love to be alone or with very few. They can live and blend anywhere, but prefer to be hidden away from society and humans. They will make friends with non-elves as long as they see the good inside of them. They are the guides in spirit and on land to humans if they are asking of it and worthy of connection to them. For a Noldor elf has high values and virtues with a lack of trust in most, but a deep understanding and compassionate heart. They usually are vegan or vegetarian with very little to no meat at all, eating nuts, fruits, and vegetables. Possibly some meat, but very little indeed is ever mentioned, and if even at all mentioned, in Tolkien's stories about these particular elven beings. They are horticulturists, and they care for the environment with a vast knowledge of nature. They will work out, but in less vigorous ways, such as yoga, Pilates, or nice nature walks and runs. They may be tall and slim, but they are always graceful in whatever body type they have, and they have a high sense of aesthetic, loving art, music, poetry, and visual beauty of their environments. They try to beautify everything that they touch, physically and etherically, on the immaterial level as well. So psychologically, emotionally, they are just all into making life more beautiful, both to be experienced on the inside as well as the outside. And they really want to do that for others. If Rivendell feels like a home to you and not just a nice place to go and visit, you may be from this type of species that Tolkien was able to channel and to read their energy and pull it into this material world and write it in the stories. There are some people that feel very connected to the Noldor elves, And I know that I personally do, and I know that others may feel that way as well. So let's move on to Mirkwood elves. So these elves are more physical and extroverted than the Noldor elves. They love to hunt, they play in sports such as archery, they love to be competitive, enjoy being social with others like humans and dwarves when in need of trade and business transactions. They trade with humans and have been known to protect them even when in need. They do eat meat occasionally, but they rely on veggies, nuts, and fruits like the Noldor elves. These elves in Tolkien's world actually do eat meat, so they are different than the other types of elves. But they also have the idea of keeping in balance. They don't ever eat an over excessive amount of meat, and they might keep it for special occasions, or they might have it, when they are feeling like maybe they need to have it to keep themselves, full of energy and sustaining themselves in that kind of way. But they do eat meat. I do want you to know that about this type of elf. So they would be more likened to how the Native Americans, the indigenous people of America, were, and how they were able to hunt the buffalo and respect the buffalo, and to be kind of custodians of earth at the same time, while also taking part in meat eating. These elves are your warrior types. They look for a fight or someone to defend with beautiful elvish weapons. They truly love their weapons of power. So they might be into collecting weapons. If you're a person on Earth right now and you collect elvish weapons, or you would love to, or you're very drawn to them, then you're very drawn to this type of energy. Their energies are robust, strong, fiery in nature, and they have their moments of vulnerability. But they are not one to really sit and reflect on their emotions like the Noldars. They are a bit less sensitive, even though they are highly attuned, and their senses can I guess, reach more levels of awareness than humans can. They are less sensitive in kind of an emotional way than Noldars are. They prefer to be more active than inactive. They like to party, go out with their friends. They're leaders, innovators, and the movers and shakers of the Elven community. Just as the Noldar elves, these are in any shape beautiful beings, but they are graceful and they are strong. They're powerful outside as well as inside, enough to help others in need. They love to work out, exercise, stay fit, and go hiking in the forests. They are not as quiet as the Noldar elves, but can be at times of needing to sort out their feelings and their own life. They live in the forest and can be seen in beautiful tree houses and dwellings. They are full of adventure, and they will take anyone with who wants to go with them. If you sense a forest elf soul in you, you may be a Mirkwood elf. The next type of elf is a Drow elf. These elves appear in Dungeons and Dragons more than in reality, but there are some elven souls who have appeared in reality in this form. In fact, I know a few in our Elven Light Path group. We have some Drow elves. We do not have dark elves in our group, and I will get to them later, but we have Drow elves in our group. And they are a form of a light elf, but they may be into looking darker or having a little bit of a darker aesthetic to them. So I'll continue. A Drow elf is usually an elf that has the powers in elf wisdom, but decides to use it only to their advantage, forgetting about helping others in need. They are of a darker energy with an air of arrogance. So they would be what people call edgelords in this world. Like if you look at somebody and you think that they're a little bit edgy, and they also are an elf and they're into nature, then you may be seen and talking to a Drow elf. They take great pride in how they look as a dark elf. So they love looking like a darker version of an elf, and can be considered just as beautiful as the light elves. Okay, so they are equal in their beauty, but they're just a little bit darker looking. And I'm not talking in a physical sense, I'm talking in Well, not necessarily about the skin tone. It's about how they look to surround their environments, how they choose to dress. They just kind of like to have a little bit more of a darker look to them, more romantic, gothic, emo. There's lots of different ways that you can kind of you can call it. They like dark, romantic, emo things and may really enjoy getting their ears very pointed in this life as a soul. They love the look of others' faces when they see them. They honestly don't give a damn what others think. They can be warm and kind, but they tend to think non elves are lesser than them and they are the superior race. They are judgmental in heart towards others, but they are equally so with themselves. They can be very hard on themselves as a deep, dark secret, which in terms makes them a bit of a harsher personality to get close to. If you can make friends with a Drow elf, be considered lucky. They do not make friends easily and they prefer a solitary life or to only hang out with their own kind. So Drow elves will generally hang out with other Drow elves. Drow elves tend to think that light elves and nature elves in that kind of sense are a bit too boring for them. They don't have that edge that they are looking for. If a Drow elf senses your weakness, they can take advantage of it. If they sense a strong spirit inside of you, they will not mess with you and consider you an equal. So Drow elves have also been considered kind of the bullies of the elven species in a sense. And in Dungeons and Dragons and in Magic and all those types of games where you have Drow elves, they're the ones that tend to manipulate or trick humans, and they have darker types of powers and desires. They're not necessarily evil like a dark elf, which I will get into more. But you do have to kind of watch how you are with them, because if they sense that you're weak and vulnerable, they will try to exploit that and take advantage of it. But if they sense that you're really a strong person and you really are authentic and you know who you are at your core, and you won't take their bullying, then they absolutely do respect you and they will see you as being an equal to them. They try to teach humans how to be stronger than they are in their own indirect way. So that's really kind of their purpose, is they're trying to teach humans how to be a good selfish and to be a little bit more stronger and not afraid so much. If you view yourself separate from humans and love all things dark as an elf, you may be from this species. And I personally know that we have many different Drow elves inside of our elf group because they find their way, to hang out with the elves. Like I said, they might feel more comfortable hanging out with their own kind of another Drow elf, but they will hang out with all types of elves as long as they deem you a respectable person, as long as they deem you as somebody that is strong in spirit and in nature, then they will be with you. Okay, the next elf type is a Teleri elf. These elven souls enjoy the sea life. They live on a beach, close to a beach, or wish they could, and they were once the largest community of elves in Tolkien's world. So many different personalities and traits are involved with the soul. They are extremely drawn to the water, though, and enjoy the water more than anything on earth. They sing, they dance, they're social, and they're not so social, but they can kind of wear both masks. They enjoy the feeling of sand between their toes and the sunshine on their skin, as well as the moonlight at night, hitting the waters. So these types of elves, and probably because it's the largest community at one point, they like a lot of different things. Very, very drawn to kind of the balance of the sun and the moon. They also are of a gentle nature, but carry a need to be active as shippers. And Teleri elves trade with humans and are not judgmental in nature. So they have no prior or present judgment of humans or other creatures or other beings. They just are who they are. They go with the flow. They see other creatures and souls equal to them, regardless of their actions. They love pearls, shells, flowing clothes that remind them of the sea. They really just want to be happy and at peace in life. They are non-confrontational as much as they can be. If you're easygoing and can fit anywhere and love the water, you may be a Teleri elf. So some of the elves who are Teleri elves may also feel more like a Noldor elf as well. And I would say that you're more like a Noldor elf if you are just on this quest and you are driven for the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom, and you truly just love to learn, and you are, the teachers and the guides and the counselors of that elven community, and you have just a passion to learn and to grow in your wisdom. So that's how you can kind of tell the difference. A Teleri elf will be wise, they'll be smart, because all elves are generally wise beings, but the Teleri elf will not be so much in that pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. Okay, the star elf is the next one. So these elven souls are light beings that feel more connected to the stars than to nature themselves. So they are not necessarily from another planet. I get a sense that they can be from any planet. They generally are here right now on Earth. They do not really know where they are from, and they really just feel like they are born straight from the star energy rather than actually a planet, because as we know, stars are basically the suns of planets. And these souls generally feel like they just resonate with stars more so than planets. They seem to carry more star energy in them than earthly minerals. They love to shine and glow. They may be quiet as a soft glow, or they may be louder and outgoing as a big shine. These elves are attached to the stars in a way that the other elves may find a bit funny or peculiar. They can be any size, shape, color, ethnicity, but they shine from within and outside. So I'm talking about an extreme spectrum of star elves, the ones that will be so attached to the stars and they are not having that balance about being on Earth or wanting to be in nature. But of course, within all these soul types, you can kind of be a mix. I mean, there are infinite amount of souls in this universe. And so we are all made of different vibrations and energies. So I'm just kind of telling you about the different ways that you can differentiate between the different elven souls and the different elven types. They can be any size, a star elf. Color, shape, ethnicity does not matter, but they shine from within and without. So they shine outside on their skin, in their hair, in their eyes, as well as inside. You just kind of get a sense of a very shiny type of soul. You can tell a star elf by seeing a twinkle in their eyes when they speak about space and the stars. They love to shimmer and shine like stars in their clothing choices, in their makeup, in their home decor and environment they belong to. They're very drawn to sparkle and shine. They're very emotional energy, and they have this emotional energy to them that is either outwardly so and is expressive and is also less expressive where they keep it to themselves. They are pensive. They love to write poetry and songs about the stars and the cosmos, or they like to write stories. They are just really drawn and attracted to the stars. If you are this way on Earth and people find you strange, you may be a star elf. So that's the type of elf you may be if you really feel just completely drawn to the stars more than earthly trappings itself. Okay, the next elf is a dragon rider elf, a species that once was on Earth but no longer here. They went off in search of other worlds and remain there today, finding it a better fit for them than Earth. They love to raise, tame, and ride dragons. Their world is built around the usage of dragons, and they have a deep soul connection to them. If their dragon dies, so does the elf. They are truly connected to them and see dragons as their companions. They are more outgoing and fiery in nature, and these types of souls on their planet, They do not like to sit and reflect in nature, though they have a natural connection to it. So they do not really examine that connection or go deeper into it. They just simply have it. It's just simply there. They are constantly moving and growing with great speed, like the dragons they ride. Their world is much bigger than Earth. So, whatever planet they're on, I cannot tell you exactly the name, but whatever home that they have right now, this is really generally why they left Earth, and this is why we had dragons that were written about in legends and tales, because we once did have elves here, we did have the dragons here, and they left Earth because they were in search of something much bigger than Earth, because Earth could not contain all of the dragon riders' energy on this planet, and their dragons needed far more airspace to conquer since they fly at speeds of jets we find here. So their cities and civilizations are much, much bigger than we can even imagine here on Earth. That's how big this world of the dragon rider elf actually is. And it's just incredible to think about how vast of a space they have. And their dragons are basically solely what they use for transport around their world. If you are an elf with a dragon in mind as your true companion, you may be from this species of space elves. Okay, the next elf is the golden elf, a species of high elves that have ruled a few planets at a time. They come from a home that is predominantly made of gold, and they base their main economy on the mining of it. They do it in ways that does not disturb the lands because of their great connection to nature and their usage of technology. It is not a green leafy type of world that they live on, but it's a desert sand with orange rocks and mountainous type of world. They want the golden cities to be the focal point of their land. They are all tall, they have golden skin that makes them look a bit metallic like a robot, and very light eyes, I'm getting a sense. They are kind to another, but fiercely defensive about their gold. Some would call them having a selfish energy and have used others to get what they want. They do see themselves as gods in a way and may have ties to the Anunnakis that were once here, that the Sumerian tablets tell us they told the humans they created them for mining of gold, like slaves. So they themselves may not be the Anunnakis, but they could be a subgroup that was here at a time and written about within those tablets. It's really hard to say. I don't know if I can differentiate. All I know is that when you look at the Tales of Gilgamesh and you look at the Sumerian tablets, those beings had wings. I'm not getting a sense of the golden elves with wings. Perhaps they do, though. Actually, the more and more I speak about it, the more I am getting a sense that they might have wings. So they could be golden elves with also golden or white wings that we would think of. So it's hard to say, but I'm getting a clear sense that that is a definite type of species of elves that do exist. And I get a strong sense that it would be very hard to communicate to them as a human if they were, right in front of you, because they view humans as inferior species. And that's why they consider themselves gods. They do not think that they created a species. They consider themselves like kings or queens of other species, that they are more superior to them in many different ways. They cannot help but see themselves as superior because their people have ingrained in their society that gold is the only thing that matters and glitters. So with them having that golden skin and having a society based on gold, this is what they have come to think of themselves as, is they are just more of a superior race. Tolkien may have had a slight remark about this nature in his book when he said, "All gold does not glitter." So I don't know if Tolkien was maybe tapping into that, but he definitely put that little bit in there. The Golden Elves are a great nation, but if you are a soul that resonates with them, you may feel a draw to gold or to repel gold completely, depending where you are in your soul growth and your learning phases of your evolution path, basically. Um, Obviously, it's not always good to only want to focus your attention on gold. As we learn on this earth, we see the problems that it creates. So a golden elf may come to earth in order to learn that lesson, and they may learn it or they may bypass it depending on the level of will that they have, in order to ignore the thirst for gold, or to hunt for it, basically. They may have been attached to ancient Egypt and also Aztecs, possibly adding to the influence of the love for gold there as well. So, as we know, the Aztecs and ancient Egypt really revered gold. And if you go into some of their myths and their legends, the influence there could be from the golden elves that were once here or visited here at one particular point, possibly. If you are from this species, you may have a very hard time being friends with humans and tend to look for elven type souls to be with. You're very picky about what company you keep, though you generally like to keep the peace and only speak out if someone offends you. So this type of soul tends to have a very self-righteous kind of nature, and they generally will keep the peace. They're a little bit more quiet or reserved in their nature, and they're not so out there, but they absolutely will not tolerate somebody disrespecting them. So if you have that kind of personality, and if you are an elf and you love gold and you resonate with the golden elves, perhaps you came from that species to learn something about what really matters in the universe. So that's something that you can explore on your own and go deeper into. The next soul is a fairy elf. Fairy elves is a wide array of elves, such as an elf is a type of fairy. But there are some souls who are more like a fairy than an elf. Fairy elves come from Earth or from other planets. Strong influence of Andromeda, I am understanding, so I get the really strong sense that Andromeda is a type of planet that has a lot of fairy and elves living there, and almost looks like a fairyland to me when I astral travel to it. On Earth, they have been parts of the myths, stories, and legends of helpful beings who humans have come across. So this is talking about not only the space elves like the Andromedans, but the Earth fairy elves. They are far more social and outgoing than elves are, generally, though they are harder to catch a glance at. They physically move much faster than elves, who are more humanoid in their nature, and a fairy is closer to a butterfly or a dragonfly than a human in terms of energy. They do not have to have wings either to still be very fast. Fairy elves love to help and are one with the elves as much as fairies. They laugh, they joke, they love to play little harmless tricks on humans even. They enjoy being absolutely merry and in ecstasy with nature and life. They're smart, but possibly not into as much study as the other elves are. They are far more interested in living life to the fullest, and that generally means to be at play at 90% of their time in life. Even the space fairies are a bit more frisky than the other space elves. If you cannot stop moving around and find it hard to sit still in life, you may have this soul type. Okay, and the water elf I talked about in my other video, so I will put a link in the description to go and listen to the different water elves, because that gets divided because there are so many different bodies of water. It's not like just the desert, so it's not a desert elf. So water elves are actually divided into different subgroups. So I will put a link in the description for that. Okay, let's talk about the dark elf. So these elves are just what they are called, dark, as in absence of light. There is no light left in these elves. Maybe at one point there was, but now in nature, they don't even really look at nature. They don't stop and listen to a bird. They don't care about helping the plants grow. It's sad to say, but they have become too dark in nature to appreciate the little things that glimmer in nature around them. I'm not sure what planet they reside on right now, but it's a good thing that they stay as far away from humans as possible. The light and dark elves have battled one another over eons through different time and space. Some human elven souls have been tempted to love the dark elves as their own identity or consider themselves one of them or part of them. But in no way are they even close to them in actuality. So I really want to set the record straight on this. A dark elf is not even beautiful anymore if we went by the human standard of beauty. They have become hardened, rocky, dried-skinned, gray beings with very pointed ears. The light elves would strip them of their titles if they could, since elves is a nature creature and an elemental soul. Dark elves are the elves Tolkien wrote about being the Uruk-hai orcs. So the tall orcs that were bred with the elves that were corrupted back in the time when Morgoth was on Earth. So please stay away from these elves. These do not care about you one bit. I am speaking from an old soul experience of battling with them. So there may be some dark elves that have, since then have become feeling regretful about their actions, and maybe they are changing. I'm not saying that they are all permanently that way, but generally their whole species, that is what a dark elf is. They are not they are not romantic and goth. They are simply unaware of themselves, lost in space and time, only searching to feed themselves in all ways possible. So sometimes humans, what they do is they put a dark spin on witches or elves. You see these fantasy pictures, beautiful, dark looking beings, under moonlight, with blood dripping down the side of their mouth or something like that, and maybe they're elven-like or something. And human souls are often drawn to that image because to them, it's just what's appealing to them aesthetically. Oh, that's pretty, it's dark, it's romantic, it's got some kind of beauty to it. But a dark elf is completely different than that image. So I want to bring more clarity to that. What humans are actually drawn to is more of the Drow elf idea, and a dark elf is just completely different, and that is really what their name has become. They actually have a different name to their species, but their name has been kind of wiped away from the lips of the light elves for so long, and their nickname has just become dark elves. So whenever a light elf talks about an elf from this particular species of corrupted beings, they just call them dark elves. That's just their name. And that's just really because of the energy that they carry. They are actually only searching to feed themselves in all ways possible. It is possible that they actually eat or would eat humans. It is possible that they absolutely would eat anything that comes to them. It is possible that, not only in the energy that they're taking physically into their bodies as far as eating, it's also about being a psychic kind of energy taker and a vampire in that kind of sense. So they would much more take, destroy, manipulate and just completely violate somebody in front of them that was not a dark elf with them. They only stick to their type. They only would ever communicate or talk to another dark elf. They are not interested in communication with other types, unfortunately, unless they have broken away from their hive mind consciousness and they're just like a rebel dark elf that's trying to make friends and trying to make right. But that's very rare because they get stuck in this type of society. They are very far away from Earth. So I just want to tell you that they've actually never stepped foot on this planet ever. And that's because light elves from Earth, so the fairies and the elves that have been here and spoken about in legends and tales, and people have said that they've seen them, they are light elves. They have been custodians to nature, and they, even though they might ignore, they might not like, or they might take offense sometimes to humans, they are in no way having a dark energy. Um, if at all a dark elf has come to Earth, then possibly that could be what was expressed in some of those ancient folktales and stories and legends of the different types of beings that have taken children and eaten them, or terrible, terrible things that we hear about. That possibly could be a dark elf that came here on its own as a wanderer, and or slipped through another dimension of time and space and entered into this earth instead, and then people saw them and witnessed what happened while they were here for a while. But all general elves and fairies that are on Earth are light elves. And this is why the dark elves cannot come to Earth, is because the light elves have kept them away with their energy as custodians of Earth. So Earth elves and fairies are basically guardians of Earth. They are just like the angels in a sense that they have watched over nature and they have watched over humanity, and they will not allow the dark elves to come to this planet. I would think that if anyone would ever resonate with the true dark elves today, there are some people who are like, I'm a dark elf, but that's because they're thinking of the Drow elf. They are thinking of the romantic goth emo type of elf that's beautiful to them. But if someone truly resonated with the true dark elves, the species that I am talking about, they would be a serial killer or a tyrant on Earth, because that is the type of low vibrational energy that they would have to carry in order to resonate with a species such as the dark elves. So be very happy that the dark elves have not been on Earth and are in no way a threat to humans. Okay, the next soul type is the desert elf. I'm very excited that I was able to channel this particular elven community and bring this energy into open, because there has been a mystery about the empty quarters of Saudi Arabia for a very long time. And I'm getting privy information right now that this is why. So desert elves are on many different planets, as well as this one on Earth right now. So they can be from other planets. It's a general term of an elf type of species that lives in a desert type of region that we know of on Earth. But they are also living on Earth right now and have been for a very long time. They are an ancient race of beings that blend in with the sand, both in skin tone and in the way they travel through the sandstorms. They may have been written about in ancient Arabian fairy tales about djinns, who grant wishes to lucky individuals who come across them in the desert. They live in another dimension on Earth, and you can hear them speaking in the Arabian sands of Saudi Arabia called the empty quarters. Travelers have said they heard voices on the wind there, picking up noise of their busy society in another dimension right here on Earth. Strange thing is, there are many unearthly flora and fauna. They're actually considered new species that are growing there today in the empty quarters. If you feel a draw to the desert and have a fierce but passionate spirit, you may be from this mysterious species. They work for the collective consciousness and aid and help when they can. Though it is hard to get in touch with them, many humans cannot travel across the desert long enough to be able to open a portal there. But one day, perhaps they will make it easy for humans and will be more open about living there amongst them. They have beautiful stone type of cities and love all types of amazing animals that crawl and travel through the desert. They do use flying contraptions, much like carpets to ride on, where the inspiration for genies on carpets came from, with pointed ears. You may see one helping a lost camel or traveler one day, and then they disappear quickly. And that's because they can jump in and out of different dimensions. They love the sunshine on their skin, and they generally have darker colors or sand like skin tones to take it all in. They carry with them beautiful elven swords by their sides as mighty warriors who tend to the life of the desert, growing all the new flora and fauna discovered there today. So, that is all the information that I gathered from these particular elves. The next soul I want to talk about is the fire elf species. Fire elves is a general term to describe the different types of elves on other planets around the multiverse. But I'm channeling a very specific type of fire species that may live close to Mars or even close to Venus in another dimension around it that we could get to through a wormhole. Fire elves can be an array of sizes, shapes, colors, but typically they are skin tone or they have an orange tint to them. So they come off having kind of an orange reddish glow to their skin. If they were all red colored completely, one may mistake them for the Christian art version of demons. But these elves are not demons at all and have learned to live amongst the most volatile environments such as volcanoes and gaseous planets like Venus. They generally live underground in beautiful rock cities, living close to the heat core of the planet. Their skin can absorb high amounts of heat. Their eyes are amber, gold brown to a golden green, possibly a golden ring inside of a blue eye as well. They usually have red tints to their hair, though they could have many colors. It tends to be more reddish in nature. They are able to also build cities on top of the earth with intelligence and experience to build away from active volcanoes. They are very warm-hearted elves, filled with passion inside to help other races who come to them. They generally will help in a galactic war. In fact, there is no battle they have turned down, I am getting. They absolutely love other souls and creatures and have a very gregarious nature to help give to others in need. They laugh at humans a bit and think humanity is a funny species of great potential. They know they would cause so much fear on Earth as a fire people, so they generally stay on their own planets and do not interfere. For this, not many people will resonate with them, but there may be some souls who originate from this origin that are fire signs in this lifetime. They don't let go of their fire nature easily. It's something just inside of them that they tend to keep, that element. And that is it for part 1. So please continue on to part 2, and I will see you in the next video. Han and Lei for listening.